I was 12 years old. And what I loved so much, she had so much soul. She had. For her, I would've gave my rib. Yeah. But now she show love to guys who will never love her like I did. Damn. She get passed around and treated like a hood bitch. When she was my queen, I'd never exploit her goodness. I used to think I was special and it was not the loot. Now she with whoever got the cash like a prostitute. How can I hate when she out getting wealth? Cause I see things in her she don't see in herself. Don't see it. Her whole being is a movement with intelligence. But she forgot that and started spreading irrelevance. I guess you always did want things your way. Remember when we drove from Sweden to Norway? We talked about love again and again. I go to sleep thinking about you and wake doing the same. That's why I'm feeling now blue, sitting in my cubicle at work thinking about you. She let me go when I thought we was tight, and even though she ain't treat me right, I still love her. Maybe I was dumb, thought she was the one, but when it's all said and done, I still love her. My brother said that it's part of the game. Our relationship's hard to explain. I still love her, even when I shouldn't. Still want her around, no matter what. I'ma always be down. I still love her.
Damn, you know she got me with my heart in her hand and got my mind running laps, so now I can't even stand. Used to demand was great, but now she stays settling. Her mainstream's being poisoned like heroin. Told her open up and express like the American, but doors closed, so the crossroads will never end. Forever friends, but I thought we had it deeper. Since the first time I heard her rocking on a speaker. Mama said she used a little too much reefer, but I thought the Santiva helped to ease her. Whatever with it, I'm committed to her totally. Worshiping her being like devotees with the rosary. Maybe we could work something out with some diplomacy. Keep the love deep in our hearts like it's supposed to be. Gave her 17 of my years straight and openly. And kinda hurting cause she didn't even notice me.
She let me go when I thought we was tight, and even though she ain't treat me right, I still love her. Maybe I was dumb, thought she was the one, but when it's all said and done, I still love her. My brother said that it's part of the game. Our relationship's hard to explain. I still love her, even when I shouldn't. Still want her around, no matter what. I'ma always be down. I still love her.
Hey yo, it's like a love-hate relationship. She make me mad, but she throw beats to make her wit.
The girl I didn't wanna break up with, natural beauty, lost that with her makeup kit.
She always forced me to come equipped, no BSing. Help me look within another part of my reflection.
She used to like it raw, so I hit it with no protection. Without a condom was common while playing Resurrection.
You say it's destined, the bond we share is unbreakable. Facing hard times, and I hope I can make it through.
But you bipolar and can either be fake or true. You changed my whole life, I was innocent when I came to you.
Yo, the scars that you gave me, they hurt but brought sunlight. Cause now I can speak my voice, just need one mic.
So yeah, did she do me wrong or was it done right? Either way, for her I'll take a bullet in a gunfight. She let me go when I thought we was tight, and even though she ain't treat me right, I still love her. Maybe I was dumb, thought she was the one, but when it's all said and done, I still love her.
I still love that girl. I said I still love that girl. I still love that girl. I said I still love that girl. I said I still love that girl. I said I still love that girl. I still love that girl. I said I still love that girl. I still love her.
Yeah,
What's
buddy.
up, brother?
Let's go.
How you doing, man?
Boy, Matt, let me turn those applause up. Let's go.
What's up, bro? Good to see you, man.
The good brother Matt.
Yes, sir. What's going on?
You know, I was looking at pictures just recently of me and you and a couple others. I think Ricky Tives was there, Adam Winnick in the 5th or 6th grade. I was just like, me and this guy go way back.
Dude, way back, man. It's funny. I'll try to grab it in a second. I have a picture of our whole 6th grade class. Like we sat down for. Let me just grab it.
This guy's getting ready to embarrass me. Oh man. Let's see that thing.
Pardon me. All right, so let's see how good. This is our 6th grade class, and if I'm correct, hold on. Yep, this is you right here.
Oh my God! Do I have on a turtleneck? No.
Turtleneck with maybe the button down, or is that hard to tell? You're right there next to Brian. Up here with my fro going here. It's a good time, man. What was you 93, 94?
Oh man.
So there you go. put it in perspective.
Wow.
How far we go back.
Shout out to Brian. Rest in peace, Brian.
Yes, sir.
Good guy. All around
Always.
good guy. So yeah, me and Matt go way back. For people who don't know, a lot of probably people don't know, but I moved to South Brunswick, I think in the 5th grade. So I've known you since, what was that?
Basically right then, man. Yeah, 92. Yeah, exactly.
And he represented your Kendall Park posse, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
So longtime supporter, friend, father, husband, hip hop lover. Please tell the people in your own words who you are, what you do, and what you represent.
Well, I'm Matt Napoli, and who I am, like, I mean, you kind of basically just described it. I mean, I basically think I'm just kind of like a normal father and husband kind of guy at this point. But I still had that passion for music, still love for hip hop, still love for the punk rock and hardcore community that, you know, I've been a part of for over 2 decades now. So, you know, it's just you try to hold on to that while you move on through adulthood and try not to lose sight of who you are and who you were and, you know, all the things you love. And so, you know, that's basically where I'm at now, man. Two kids. I have an almost 8-year-old and an almost 3-year-old. And you kind of sit back and I feel like sometimes I'm like, that little kid, and I don't understand how I'm like an almost 40-year-old guy at this point. Relate.
I can, but I want to harp on you said I'm just, and that I'm just is kind of what I wanted to do this interview for. So I've done several interviews before, but recently I decided there would be no prerequisites to why I would interview someone. For me, I just wanted to interview people who I felt were genuine, interesting people, and people who I feel have something to say, regardless of who they may be. So you, my friend, consistently have shown that to me as far as everything I've seen from you online for as long as I've been online. Sometimes I'll like be scrolling down and I'll see something you wrote and I'll be like, yo, it's like he pulled that thought out of my head. So my question to you is, have you always been this outspoken, and what drives you to continue to say things that others may be afraid to say?
You know, honestly, man, I think I have been. I always kind of wasn't afraid to have a difficult conversation or say something that may not be popular if I felt passionately about it and if I felt that it was based in truth. You know, right. I think a lot of what I try to put out there, I don't necessarily have an agenda other than it's something that's like on my mind and I feel like, you know, expressing. And like I said, I try to make sure I can back it up, you know, so I don't know. I think, you know, I don't know. It's like thinking about it from that whole perspective. I guess, you know, thinking back to college, you know, I minored in philosophy and had an interest in having those debates and the conversations and questioning things you may have thought were, you know, pretty blatant or right in front of you. But if you look at it from a different perspective, you may see it differently. You know what I mean? And
right.
I just kind of always felt that way, I guess.
So do you always speak your mind freely, or are there some times where you respectfully decline to comment?
I think I control myself a bit. Other people may not agree. I don't know. You know, I think it depends on the situation. I tried more recently to keep it all like on my own accounts and things like that. Like I won't necessarily go after somebody if they post something on their own page that I don't agree with as much. But if people come on my page and comment on what I say, they're
gonna get served. I've seen you serve
it's full
people
game. You know, I like I said, I try not to say stuff unless I can back it up. So I'm typically ready in case anybody.
I quite enjoy seeing you serve people.
Thank you.
Would you say there are more benefits to speaking your mind or keeping to yourself? I think I know the answer, but
yeah, well, honestly, I mean, for me, I feel like, you know, there's more benefit to speaking your mind. I know there's a lot of reasons why people want to be more controlled in their responses. And, you know, I've had a few people message me privately and say, you know, things like, oh, I love the things you say. I would post things like that too, but I'm worried about my job or this and that. And I'm like, should I think about my job? You know, like I never even think of it. But you know what I mean? But like, look, I'm going to teach my kids to speak their mind. I'm going to teach them to stand up for what's right. And I kind of, especially over the last year plus, given everything that's gone on, I'm kind of okay with, you know, ending relationships with people that have issue with my beliefs.
I can dig it. So to me, tackling tough topics and speaking up when you feel something needs to be said are two of the definitions of hip hop. So you, my friend, are hip hop in
Thank you, sir.
In its purest form. So where did your love of hip hop come from? Like, where did that start?
I feel like it goes back to when we were all hanging out, when, you know, going through elementary school is when it started. I remember being on the class trip we took to DC, and I had my mixtapes of, you know, the songs I recorded from Hot 97, you know, just because that was what I liked. And that was what all of us kind of, you know, gravitated towards. It was, you know, primarily the East Coast sound of the early and mid 90s that kind of hooked me, you know, and I'll be honest, I wouldn't say that I've kept up with it as much in recent years, but I still kind of, you know, can see where talent comes from, and I can still respect it. But yeah, I think it's hard to say because, you know, I'm like suburban kid from middle of New Jersey. But just in a similar way, I think that I found like punk rock and hardcore and that type of music, it kind of came from this community atmosphere and this kind of love for a certain genre that may not have been what was, you know, what everybody else was into.
Got you.
Just kind of gravitate towards.
So that actually leads into my next question. I know you've been a musician at points in your life. What have been your greatest lessons learned from being an artist, and how were you able to use those lessons in your everyday life now?
That's a great question. You know, I mean, for me, when it came down to, like, if I could use, I've been in a few different bands, and, you know, they had varying levels of, you know, success. Obviously nothing major, nothing on the level of, you know, things like that you're doing or anything to that degree. But for what we were doing, and at the time, it was, you know, it was our everything. And you know what I mean? And I think part of what the problem was that it became more of a job and a responsibility than a passion. Dealing with the band environment too, you have conflicting personalities. And I think people let ego and things like that take over and things. And I look back now and I think, like, damn, if we would have just, you know, kept it together, or, you know, just gotten over all the petty stuff, then we could have potentially taken it somewhere. I try to always think about that too, because you want to think about, you know, what's really worth it and what's important and what's, you know, what's worth holding on to, and versus what's worth looking at, like the end goal or the prize you want to focus on. So I think that's one of it too. And, you know, just in general, dealing with different personalities, like I said, you have to kind of be able to adapt and kind of be flexible like that too. And that applies to everything.
So who would you say in life in general have been who do you think has been your greatest influence on how you are in life, and why? Like, what did you take from them or that?
I think I can answer this in two ways. I think as far as the person I try to be, or the man I try to be, I take a lot from my father. He is somebody who has always been kind of like a constant and like a soothing voice. And, you know, he's always somebody who's always been there for the family and puts us ahead of himself in every way. And I try to adopt some of those unselfish qualities, and a lot of things from his perspective, I think, have helped me in becoming the father I am today too. But, you know, I would even think too, to put it in a perspective of like my personality or where my interests have come from and things like that. this may seem random or weird, but you know, Adam Yauch, MCA from the Beastie Boys, was some Beastie Boys in general. I think were also a big part of my influence in hip hop as well as punk, because you know, it kind of toggled the line there too. And when we started growing up, and all these things started coming out like Lollapalooza, and then there was the Tibetan Freedom concert that the Beastie Boys had organized. So I started paying more attention to that, and then kind of empathizing more with some of the causes that they spoke towards, and seeing how they became more well-rounded adults as they grew on. And then obviously with him getting sick and passing away, overall was pretty profound for me still, I think, you know, pretty hard. But, you know, I think from that perspective, I think is just a way to look at kind of where my influences may come from too.
Right. So let me ask you this. If you could speak to any person in a room for 2 hours that has passed away, any person for 2 hours, and be able to ask them anything, who would that be, and what might be a question you ask them?
That's tough. I mean, because I could go, you know, a few directions with it, you know. Obviously, you know, as we mentioned, you know, from the picture that we saw, my friend Brian that had passed away.
Shout out to Brian.
17 years ago at this point. It's crazy to think. But you know, he was my best friend since we were in kindergarten. So a few years later, we met you. It's fun, actually. Funny story, real quick. I remember when, and I don't know if you remember this. We did like, it was either two-hand touch or flag football, and me and you and Brian, and I think Anthony, a few others on the same team. And you had just moved here, and we were telling our coach, we're like, we need this kid on our team. You don't understand. He's like the fastest kid we have ever seen. And he's like, but he's from England. Does he know how to play football, or does he think it's soccer? We're like, it doesn't matter. Figure it out. And this is 5th grade, so it's like, who cares? You know what I mean? Which is just so funny. Anyway, you know, I can honestly like think of celebrities or other relatives and things like that. But I mean, honestly, like if I had to pick one, it probably would be him, would be Brian, because he meant so much to me, still does, you know. And I don't know, it's hard to think about, I guess, what I would ask him, because, you know, I don't know if it would go in the direction of like, you know, do you see what I'm doing now? You know, things like that. Or if it's more, you know, in the direction of the perspective of a 22-year-old guy who, you know, didn't get to this stage in life, unfortunately. I don't know. I don't think I'm really answering your question, but
no, you are.
That's tough.
You are. Because my dad passed in 2013, and I remember I knew he was going to pass. So before he passed, I said, I was like, Dad, when you pass over to the other side, make sure you visit me so we can like talk about stuff. And he was like, why? And I was like, I still haven't answered him. I was like, I don't know what I would say, but
yeah, it's hard. It's hard because, you know, you think like that's something that you could prepare for if you had time to think about it, but then you get put in, obviously this isn't something that could happen, but if you're put in that type of moment, who knows?
Right. Agreed. So let me ask you this. If you could speak to yourself 20 years ago, around probably the time, you know, close to where Brian passed, what advice would you give yourself 20 years ago that could help you out, you know, that would have helped you out along your path?
So I think first and foremost, I would tell myself that you deserve to be happy. And what I mean by that is, you know, I can tie a lot of this back to Brian too, because when he passed away, I think I can almost like pinpoint the moment too. It's kind of weird. Like I can pinpoint the moment where I kind of was like, all right, I can't really, like, worrying about myself isn't a priority anymore. Like I can't worry about myself anymore because it feels selfish to me, you know, because here I have my best friend who just passed away and was sick and suffering this whole time. So what do I have to complain about, or what do I have to about? You know, I almost got offended when people would ask me how I was doing and stuff like that. And I know that's completely, you know, the wrong way to approach things. And I think I would want to tell myself, or really anybody else dealing with survivor's guilt or anything like that, to not let that deprive yourself of happiness, because you can't change what happens, and beating yourself up over it isn't going to change it. I still have to tell myself that.
Yo, that was a jewel. I got to give it up for that one too. Great answer.
Thanks.
Real talk.
Yeah, for real, man.
So let me also ask you this, kind of switching topics to like a bit more lighthearted.
Yeah.
If you have any director make a movie about your life, who would it be and why?
My favorite director is hands down Wes Anderson, who's done The Royal Tenenbaums, Life Aquatic, all those Bill Murray movies, basically. I kind of like the quirkiness of it and the offbeat humor. So I'd probably pick him. I'm not like a big movie buff in the sense where I could rattle off, you know, tons of directors anyway, but he's always the one that kind of stuck out to me. You know, like the
Wait, so he did Royal Tenenbaums, and what else did he do?
Life Aquatic. He did Rushmore.
Oh yeah, that's the one I was thinking of, because
Yeah.
I was like, did he do that one too? Because that
Yep.
yeah.
Yep, and there's been a few since then too. But yeah, they always seem to have Bill Murray in them, which is a plus because he's amazing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, he is great. My favorite Ghostbuster.
For sure.
Who would do the soundtrack? What producer would do the soundtrack?
That's a tough question. I don't know, because, you know, from my perspective, it can go in a few different directions too. I think, I don't know. I'm drawing a blank on that one. That's a tough one.
We can come back to that one. Keep it in mind. So I'm gonna ask another fun question. If you were any character on Saved by the Bell, who would you be?
Oh man, see, this is something I feel like I should have been prepared for my whole life to answer this question. It's got to be Zach, man. And like I feel like there's an easy way to be like, oh, I want to be Slater because you want to be like the nice guy, or you want to not be like the arrogant one. I don't care. I'll be Zach. Zach all day. Give me Kelly.
I'll take it.
Exactly. I know that they have that show.
Yeah, fact.
And I'm not watching it, but see, he's got staying power.
Hey, I tried to watch. I was done after they left high school. I even tried to watch when they went to college, and it never really sank in for me.
The magic is gone.
But shout out to Zach Morris. That was my guy back then. It was him, Parker Lewis, and there was one other guy. You remember Parker Lewis?
Oh hell yeah, Parker Lewis can't lose on. I think he was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. He was on after In Living Color, I think.
Yeah, those were my guys.
Yep.
What else did I want to ask you? Where do you believe the world might be heading in the next 10 years?
Man, I mean, there's a few ways we can answer that. I mean, from not to be all like, you know, preachy in that sense, but I mean, I think we're dealing with a lot of climate emergencies that we need to handle sooner than later, which could translate into economic emergencies. I don't know. I think between the last year plus, I mean, not necessarily just in the last year plus, but I think what we've seen is kind of like a powder keg explode in this country. I don't necessarily think we're on a path to go forward yet. I still think there has to be a lot done and a lot addressed to be able to say that we're actually moving forward as a society, rather than trying to hold on to like the last gasps of what this country might have been built on, which is ultimately going to lead to our downfall. and I don't want to sound like too doom and gloom or anything like that, because I don't necessarily think it's a doom situation, but I think there's just these realities that people have to consider, because, man, it's like things have gotten crazy, man. And I think, you know, like I said, we're not out of the woods by any stretch from a lot of it.
Is all hope lost, or do you think we still have some hope to make it out of the tunnel? Or do you think like...
No, I wouldn't say hope is lost. I think there's too much at play to consider it like a lost situation. And there's too many people who genuinely have an interest in the preservation of the earth and the next generations, whether you have kids of your own, grandkids of your own or not, you know, what world we're setting up for them. I think there's enough people that care, and enough smart people that care.
Right.
You know, like I said off the top, I think it comes down to what's actually truth and what isn't. And there's just been a lot of kind of muddying of that waters, and a lot of kind of irresponsible groups and individuals who kind of interfere with stuff like this. But I don't think hope is lost. I think at the end of the day, there's more good that can be done, that we just have to, you know, hope materializes, I guess.
I got you. So, additional question. What would you say is the greatest thing you've learned about friendship in your time?
The greatest thing,
or lack thereof.
Yeah, no, that's true. That could be equally relevant. I just think, you know, if anything, like it comes in different forms, right? Like I have friends who I've been friends with for a long time, but I could go a year or more than that without seeing them or speaking to them. And then when we reconnect, it feels like no time's gone by. And I think being able to recognize that is really important, because it gives you that perspective of an actual bond that you have with somebody.
Right.
You know, what can, you know, persevere through all your changes in life.
Right. I got you. I love that answer as well. So what is your best piece of advice you can give to a young man or woman about marriage?
Don't do it. No. Make sure, make sure you're doing it for the right reasons. And don't be afraid to be yourself. For a marriage to work, ultimately you have to feel comfortable with the person you're with, and they have to know who you are, because otherwise it's just going to lead to a lot of stress, and it ultimately, I think, will crash and burn. So yeah, patience and being yourself, I think, All
right. So let me ask you this. What about being a father? What jewel have you learned from being a father that you didn't have before you were a father? Have you had an enlightened moment?
I still feel very much like I don't know what I'm doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I know you, as a father, maybe you can relate too. I think that, and I don't want to, to completely just brush off, the point of the question, but I think it's also important to recognize you always kind of feel inadequate and flawed as a parent. Mm-hmm. And that feeling doesn't really ever go away, because these kids keep changing, and they're,
right.
The things you need to worry about for them are different, or the things you need to teach them or manage from, their personalities, it's always changing, and you're always kind of basically feeling like you're trying to keep up. I think if anything, I could say that try your best to push all of that aside and recognize that at the end of the day, you're still a hero to them, I think is important. Mm-hmm. I had a funny quick story with my oldest. we had gone on a picnic to a park not far from here, but it's probably like almost a mile walk. And she was 5 at the time. So like a mile walk's kind of, that's no short walk. So
Right.
I packed everything up, like made sure we had everything to be perfect for her. Just me and her were going, and we're like 3/4 of the way there. And I'm like, I forgot to bring water or anything for us to drink, So now I'm like, I'm the worst, I'm gonna like dehydrate my daughter. My wife's gonna think I'm an idiot because I forgot, So fast like a year and a half, 2 years later, and we were going by that park, and my daughter said, "Hey, you remember when we had that picnic there?" And I was like, "Yeah," She's like, "And remember you forgot the water?" And I was like, "Yeah." She was like, "That was the best day of my life."
Aw.
And it's like, I know obviously it wasn't, obviously that wasn't the best day of her life, but like, again, from her perspective, there was nothing wrong with that day.
Right.
You're a parent, just know that you're good enough for them. But it's hard.
Right.
Like I said, I constantly struggle with it too. It's hard.
No, you hit it on the head. I'm definitely one of those hands-on type of dads, and I think I'm hands-on because I'm just trying to do everything right, and sometimes I feel like I mess it up, and that kind of hurts.
It's only natural, and I think that's what's comforting in a way too. Like when you become a parent, a lot of the struggles and the stresses that you feel, you can end up feeling like, no one really can understand, but you realize like a lot of parents deal with a lot of similar stress and a lot of similar challenges. So, having that makes it a little easier too, knowing that like, okay, I'm not a total screw up because this happens to everybody.
Right.
Kind of thing.
So as far as like the kids, how have they been faring during the pandemic?
Pretty good. My youngest is, I think, just, she's luckily has been a little too young for a lot of it to really register with her. My older one is, she's going into 3rd grade in September. So she basically had half of 1st grade and then 2nd grade all screwed up for her, which she's managed well. I think there are times where it comes out a little bit more, with just the general frustrations of, they're asking like 7-year-olds to do, on the computer, like you work at an office basically.
Yeah.
So I think that's it too. Like kids are super resilient, and I think we may take that for granted a lot, but kids are also super observant, and they feel things on a level we may not think that they can comprehend. So something like this with the pandemic over the last year, it's been tough, going back to what I was just saying, it makes it even harder. You feel like I gotta be a parent in a time where we can't go anywhere.
Right.
I have to worry about, making sure that nobody gets sick or we don't get people sick. And how do you successfully keep a 7-year-old happy throughout all of that? I don't know. Right. But she's been good, and overall she's strong, and things are hopefully continuing to get back to normal for them too. And she's at summer camp this year and loving it. And so, we'll just hopefully they don't get too much more of their childhood taken from them.
Gotcha. So beyond the kids, what about you? Because I know me during the last year and a half, I've definitely had some days where I was just like, this is too much. I don't know if you've been more resilient than me or kind of the same, but how have you personally, mentally and emotionally been dealing through the whole pandemic? Like, are you working from home? Are you going into work? Like, how
I'm working home. And actually I mostly worked home before the pandemic anyway.
So not that big of a change.
The adjustment had only been, I wasn't the only one home anymore. And then dealing with my colleagues who are in different locations in a lot of ways anyway, and adjusting to that. My office is in Midtown, but I just am not trying to do that commute every day.
Yeah.
And then if I have my colleagues all over the place, I can work wherever. But anyway, there have been times where for sure it's been kind of like surreal. Like it's it being surreal is the only reason it wasn't like overwhelming. You know what I mean? Like it almost,
I see what you're saying.
you know what I'm saying? Like you don't have time to really process it from a sense to worry as much because you're going through it, but also kind of, it's just like things you can't prepare for.
Well, that's scary as hell to me, right?
Oh hell yeah! No, I get it. I think if anything, it becomes scarier to me later on than it was like right away.
That's what I'm saying. Like, what are gonna be the effects of these things?
There are times now where I feel like I have PTSD about it, and I think people are going to have it to some degree, and the long-term effects of everything are going to be hard to figure out. You know, like I said, we were talking about from the kids' perspective, but then also like from our perspective as well too. I think it's going to be not only just kind of getting back into doing things normally, but you know, we have this now like divide in our country of people who support, for lack of a better term, science, and those that don't, those who are okay with wearing masks, those who think it's like tyranny or, you know, something horrible. And that didn't exist 2 years ago.
Not at all.
You know, we were divided, and obviously we had these divisions that were kind of festering and seemingly getting worse given the political climate. But like, I didn't have to worry about like a group of people who are going to, you know, I'm going to look at a certain way because they don't want to wear a mask at a store, or because they think, you know, a pandemic that's killing hundreds of thousands of people is fake. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I don't know. It's hard, man, because I think in a lot of ways we're going to have to learn how to develop friendships and relationships again too. And like I said, I mean, I could speak for myself. I don't know if everyone is in this boat, but you know, you lose some friends along the way through stuff like this, and some family stop talking to. So again, it's kind of
unfortunately,
and you just look at people differently, and I think that's going to carry with us a bit,
right?
You think about it or not.
Have there been anything you've done to like take off some of the stress? Like, what do you do to like, you know, maintain?
It's, you know, it's hard to say because I don't know. Like, I mean, exercise is one thing. It's tough, you know, with two young kids, you struggle with that sense of individuality, I think sometimes too, and making time to make yourself a priority. I think sometimes, you know, goes by the wayside a bit. You know, I think it's been largely just trying to maintain those relationships and keeping active with people and, you know, what's going on in their lives when I can. As far as, you know, things otherwise, I think that's been a challenge for me for sure. I think is making sure that you're in a healthy way, managing all of that. You know what I mean?
Well, no, you.
Oh, no. I like, you know, I think in a lot of ways, I think it's been, if it's things like giving yourself alone time and stuff like that, it helps. But, you know, I think kind of going back to what I was saying earlier too, you kind of struggle to find that balance for yourself also. And you start to question like, what's too much of myself versus, especially now with young kids and with everything that's going on, you know, I don't know. I think that's, if, you know, to loop back to the question before, I think it relates to it. I think that's been the more than worrying about everything related to the pandemic. I think it's been making sure that myself, my marriage, and my just general adulthood are preserved, and I'm not just 100% consumed with my kids.
Right. Right. Nah, I hear you. Towards what you said earlier, when we were kind of talking about Brian, just remember you deserve to be happy too, out of your own mouth.
Thank you, brother. Man, I know it's tough. Like I've kind of conditioned myself in such a way for so long that it's like it's hard to accept something like that, as simple as it may sound.
Nah, I get it. I totally get it. Totally get it. We're gonna get through this, brother. We're gonna get through it.
We sure will.
So yeah, I wanted to ask you, because I don't think you said this in the beginning. What is it that you do in NYC? What do you do for a living?
Oh, excuse me. I work for a global data provider. So I've worked for this company for 14 years, actually. So, but we've gone through like some acquisitions and mergers and stuff. But so we provide data to the shipping and logistics market, like freight, container shipping, everything related to that. We have like subscription services, data products, events. And so I kind of serve as the operations manager for one of those divisions, kind of coordinating all the projects and, managing the execution of all that. So, again, like I said, 14 years of that.
So what jewel can you drop on the people about being in that role? Like, what can you teach someone about that role that might help them get a similar role?
I would say, and this is something that I've always kind of carried with me in like my professional career, going back to when I worked for Enterprise Rent-A-Car. So like anybody that's worked for Enterprise knows that they like work you like dogs when they hire you, working like 60, 70 hours a week. You're going through like tons of training and tons of, just process training basically. And you carry that work ethic with you. And I kind of always look at it from a standpoint of, if you're interviewing for a job, if you're going up for a promotion, anything like that, the only thing you can do is focus on yourself, meaning like, it doesn't matter who else may be interviewing for something. It doesn't matter the qualifications of anybody else. You go in there thinking that you're the person for the job, or you're the person for this promotion. And it gives you kind of that sense of ease, knowing that you're doing everything that you can control. And so I've carried that with me too, where I've never kind of had a fear going into a situation like that, because if I'm confident in my knowledge and my ability, then it's good enough,
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So I'm going to bring back the question that you diverted from. What producer would you get to score the soundtrack of your life?
Oh man, see, and I was like, I wonder if he's gonna forget about it, or if he's gonna go back and answer. I only because it's more, I would say, like in line with my style, or in line with kind of the background of where I came from. Maybe Rick Rubin makes the most sense, I would say, because he's somebody who has that eclectic knowledge and that eclectic style, and always kind of is able to present his artists a certain way that people remember. So I'd probably say him.
That's a great answer.
He's still doing his thing too with his.
Yeah, he is. Have you seen some of those interviews he does? He does some of the greatest interviews. Have you seen any?
None recently, but I always remember he's got like a Zen like vibe about him when he gives his interviews that I always found impressive.
If you can find it, he has an interview with him. He's interviewing Pharrell. It's a great interview. Great.
All
interview.
right.
Should definitely check it.
I will.
So what is something about you that we don't know? What's something about you that you might say right now that your closest friends might not know? Something. Give me some juice.
Oh God, man, that's a lot of pressure. Something that people don't know. I think for a lot of people, just knowing that like I was a singer in a band, or that, you know, I have the ability to carry a tune and also get pretty loud at times too. Like I just remember even back when I was in these bands coming up, and like I would have people that I work with and they would just say like, there's no way that that's you, you know, or they wouldn't believe me when I would tell them like, yeah, I kind of get on stage and I just kind of like wrap the microphone around my neck and it's just kind of crazy, you know, whatever. So like, I think having that side of me is what a lot of people today especially don't know. I've recently found an old like mini DV tape that I had no idea what was on it, but I knew it was from like when I was in a band. And I found this service online. I paid to get the thing converted so I could see what was on it. And I found there was like a footage from a show we played in Boundbrook one year. And I kind of remember it, but this was like 03. And so I wanted to share that too. And so many people, when I posted it, were just like, you were in a band, or I had no idea that you could do this, or that you did stuff like this too. And even to me, it was kind of weird. I was watching it and almost didn't feel like I was watching myself. It was like I was watching somebody else. And so
Yeah.
oh, that for sure, I think, is a part of it. What else? I'm really good at whack-a-mole. I don't lose at whack-a-mole. So consider this an open challenge. If you see me at an amusement park, boardwalk, come find me. I don't lose.
Taking all bets.
Yeah. But
I love it.
You know, otherwise, man, I think I'm just otherwise an open book for the most part to everyone that knows me.
I love it. So I have one more question, and besides the last question, I have a lightning round where I ask you two questions, kind of like hot or cold, and you just say whichever one you pick. So my last question, easy one really. Is there anything else that you kind of want the people to know, or anything you want to discuss? Just anything you want to put out there?
Man, listen, just in general, like I'm proud of you, and I want to make sure I had a chance to say that also. And I've been telling you that whenever I get a chance along the way too. And, you know, from the music and obviously this as well, you know, I appreciate you having me, but I'm very proud and I'm a big fan, and I want to, you know, make sure that I continue to encourage you too, because seeing you out here and seeing you doing these things, helps me, and I know helps a lot of other people too, because the positive message that you send along, you know, I got the letter that you sent me with the hoodies that I ordered, which I kept and I appreciate, and I'll keep it because those are true words, you know what I mean? And it meant a lot. So, you know, keep going, man. I keep telling you that. So
thank you.
No, thank you.
Thank you. You definitely have been telling me that for a long time. A long time. I can remember it was like 2005. You probably told me that.
Yeah.
And here I am.
we lost contact for a bit, I guess, after high school, which is only natural. But then, yeah, I mean, thanks to social media and otherwise too, I'm able to see all the things that you're up to. So, yeah, man, great job.
Thank you, brother. I can't wait to show you what's next.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it.
Coming soon. So, all right, here's the lightning round. You ready?
Ready.
Larry Bird or Nikola Jokic?
And you want me to pick one?
Mm-hmm. Whatever comes to mind. Which one?
I guess with Larry Bird. It's funny you say that. I met a few people at Buffalo Wild Wings the other day, and there was a dude at the bar that looked like Larry Bird plus like 80 pounds. I'm just saying that because he's on top of my mind because I just saw this guy. But no, I mean, yeah, it's Larry Legend. I guess I'll probably go his direction.
I'll take that. All right. Chinese food or Italian?
I gotta say Italian. I mean, I'll probably be disowned if I don't. Chinese food's good too, but no, Italian food to me is kind of like my main comfort food, you know? So, you know, I'd definitely go with that.
All right. Let's see here. Professor X or Magneto?
I'm going with Professor X. I don't know. I feel like it's cool to pick the bad guy, but there's something about this dude just being chill in his chair, but having that knowledge, you know what I mean? That just you kind of envy a bit. So I'd probably go Professor X.
All right. Richard Pryor or Dave Chappelle?
I gotta go Chappelle, partially because I feel like I just missed the Richard Pryor wave when we were kids, or when I first started paying attention to comedy like that. Eddie Murphy was the guy. Chris Rock to me is ultimately number one as far as stand-up goes to me across the board. Chappelle to me, what he's done, not only just from, his show, which to me was probably the greatest show that ever was created, but how he's evolved into a storyteller and more of a reflection of society and so forth like that. I can respect him. I can respect what he did when he stepped away from, the bags of money and disappeared for a bit. So yeah, Dave will always be the guy to me too, I think.
I like it. French toast or pancakes?
Pancakes, man. Definitely pancakes.
Easily? Yeah.
No, and you're not the first person that I've had this conversation with too. So I was ready for that one. I'm not a big cinnamon guy. I don't know if that makes a difference or not, but yeah, it's French.
Me neither.
Yeah.
But I don't put cinnamon on my French toast.
All right.
I'm like, don't put that on my shit. Juicy fruit or winter fresh?
Winter fresh. Juicy fruit's good, but for like 8 seconds.
I concur, Dr. Spock.
My oldest daughter will chew gum for like 2 hours, and I'm like, that's got to be like cement in your mouth. But anyway.
1990 or 2000?
I guess 2000. 1990, I think is great from a standpoint of, I think there was like a culture shift taking place, and we were young enough to kind of be on the early wave of that. But 2000, man, we were 18 years old. We were graduating high school. We were, moving into the next phase of life. And also when you're 18, those are the years that you kind of absorb everything that makes you who you are. And there was so much, everything was new then basically. So it was fun. It was exciting back then in 2000.
I can dig it. And last one, Wu-Tang or The Roots?
Okay.
Put them W's in the sky.
Listen, man, I love The Roots too. One of the best live shows I've ever seen was The Roots. Back in like 03, 04, I want to say. But Wu-Tang is just, they're a pillar, man, to me, in every way. So yeah, I'd have to go that way.
All right. Well, Matt, we've come to an end of the interview. You've been a great interviewee. I really appreciate you coming through. I can't wait for people to see this. I think we had an awesome conversation, and I think it's going to bleed through when people hear it. So thank you.
I hope so. Thank you too, man. And it's great to catch up with you.
The boy, Matt DiNapoli. Kendall Park.
Yes, sir. All right, man.
Again, thank you very much.
You got it.
I'll talk to you soon, brother. Peace, love, and positive energy. Peace.
Be good.
You too.
Hexagon, what up? This place raised me, man. A lot of love here. This is for Jersey. Though I came a long way on my journey, I'm always gonna represent Jersey. Say it many times and make sure that they heard me. I do this one for Jersey. I'm the best MC, I'm not here to convince. You probably reply to emails from the Nigerian prince if you thinking otherwise, but I'm not these other guys. I take a blanket statement and cover lies. New Jersey's just as live, anything else is dead, put it to bed. My favorite MC is still red. When Poor Righteous was teaching, I was a young boy who thought he fly. It was a stretch, but I thought I was trash from naughty by. To me, Skit Slam and Science of Life had the hardest tracks. I was influenced by outsiders and the artifacts. So many times we wait till somebody dies, but fuck that, here's your flowers while you alive. It's no debate much in my statement to my benefit. That's why I'm repping it like the Nets with drives and Petrovic. I'll never quit, keep the speaker, Rick, it's even deeper. I do this for Whitney, Lauren, and Queen Latifah. This is for Jersey. Though I came a long way on my journey, Say it many times to make sure that they heard me. Ayo, I do this one for Jersey. The way my story started wasn't likely. We moved from England to Jersey in 1990. And even though I wasn't born here as a baby, it's crazy lately I've been feeling that New Jersey made me. Where I'm from, some still sleep on me and ain't on the way. Even though I've been in foreign countries repping the Garden State. But I thought I always represented you. Some people just can't give out the credit when it is due. True, my competition waiting for me to go away. Might as well be Columbia House waiting for me to pay. Now it's well told, since young my soul felt old. I also felt bold, cause I can spit hot and melt gold. I rap Jersey, I can't really name the clubs, but ask me about the grease trucks or tasty subs. Before Walmart and Target, bought Simpson t-shirts from the Route 1 flea market. Now I'm killing every session and I'm steady repping. You can catch me going to grandma's on 27. Then off to NY, where stages I was killing. At New York shows, New Jersey was always in the building. Thinking this made you a minor, I get you open like a 24-hour diner. I symbolize the state like it's my birthright. This for every night I spent driving home on a turnpike. This is for Jersey. Though I came a long way on my journey, I'm always gonna represent Jersey. Say it many times to make sure that you heard me. Ayo, I do this one for Jersey. Though I came a long way on my journey, I'm always gonna represent Jersey. Say it many times to make sure that they heard me. Ayo, I do this one for Jersey. Ayo, I do this one for Jersey. Ayo, I do this one for Jersey.